We haven't been down to Canberra yet, or Parliament House at least, in this program. Let's cross down there now because Parliament's been sitting today, and I'm joined by National Senator for Victoria, Bridget McKenzie. Good to talk to you, Bridget. There's a bit to talk about. I want to talk about your colleague Craig Kelly in a moment, but just on the sports rorts affair, which of course is the reason you're no longer a minister. I see some reporting today in The Guardian, I think it was, that a Labor-aligned law firm, Maurice Blackburn, with I think Josh Bornstein is a fairly prominent leftist figure, is still pushing a court case in this arena. What's going on here, and how much more is to play out in this affair?
Well, thanks, Chris. Great to be with you. Happy New Year. Yes, first week back in Parliament. We got a fair bit of ledge through, and looking forward to the next 2 weeks in Canberra. But the sports grants Senate inquiries ongoing. I'll be appearing before that next Friday. Having submitted an almost 6,000-word comprehensive submission in April last year. So assisting the Senate with their inquiries, obviously, and there does seem to be a legal case going on in Melbourne. Yeah,
so the Senate inquiry is where the political action will be, and it looks to me like there's some politics involved in that legal case too. We'll keep an eye on that because there could be more ramifications, although you're out of your job now as a result of that affair. I want to ask you, particularly from a nationals perspective, how you feel about Australia signing up to net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Is there anything meaningful in that statement?
Oh, look, Chris, we've talked about this a lot, and obviously it's an issue we in the National Party feel very strongly about. I personally think we should tread very lightly on the earth, be very good stewards of the resources that we've been gifted. But I won't be signing up to a plan, and the Nationals won't be signing up to a plan that negatively impacts agriculture, mining or manufacturing jobs, which are all predominantly out in our electorates. So pursue whatever target you like, but I'm much more concerned with the outcomes of any target. So I'll be making sure that the plan, when it is developed, ensures that our Australian agriculture, manufacturing and mining industries and the families that work in those are not going to be paying the ultimate price as a result of appeasing inner city voters and indeed the broader international community. Because if you look at the plans that have been developed thus far, Labor doesn't have one. Internationally, there's 120-odd countries that have signed up to this thing. Only 16 of them have actually developed a plan. Many of those nations are actually able to avail themselves of nuclear power with zero emissions to actually assist them with that target. But it is, at the end of the day, in all of these plans, as we saw under Labor when they tried to put their carbon tax in, that it is the communities of regional Australia that will be impacted and the industries that underpin those communities and indeed our national economy, and we won't be putting up with that.
Yeah, well, it's good to hear because there seems to be a dangerous misconception being put about by many on the right of politics that you can sort of say net zero by 2050, sign up to it, it's meaningless, no one's going to be around in politics still by then anyway. But once you sign up to that target, the onus is actually, as you say, to demonstrate a practical, deliverable plan to get there, and there will be an economic cost in that.
Absolutely, Chris. And, you know, I didn't get into politics and most of my colleagues didn't get into politics to play trite political games around electoral cycles. We actually came into this place to deliver for our communities a sustainable and prosperous future way beyond our time in politics. And that means making tough decisions now to protect our prosperity and the industries that have underpinned it. I mean, you know, technology, I believe, when applied in a rational and reasonable common sense way, will actually provide the solution. It always has for our species. We don't use whale oil anymore to light our streets. And I'm absolutely confident that we have the brains right across the globe to solve the emission issue, and therefore it should not come at a cost to the communities that I represent and the National Party cares about.
Now, just on the pandemic, I wonder whether you've read much about the trials here and overseas when it comes to the use of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, and whether they hold out much hope for treating people who are infected?
No, Chris, I personally haven't, but, you know, science is always contested, and I think we should always avail ourselves of the very best research available when we're making those policy decisions.
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with your colleague, your Liberal colleague Craig Kelly, sharing some of these reports written by scientists and research papers detailing the trials that some doctors have run. There's nothing wrong with him sharing that medical information and contributing to this public discussion, is there?
Oh, look, I've commented on this before this week. I think Australians are smart enough to get their medical advice from their doctor. I don't use Facebook to get medical advice, but I do use Facebook and other medium to actually avail myself of information so that I can make my own assessment. I think one of the issues that I have in the broader Australian community, it's not just this issue, but across a raft of policy areas, climate change being one of them, is the lack of scientific literacy amongst the broader community. As we've seen young people giving up studying the sciences, we've also seen that now leak out into broader and the wider public, not actually appreciating and understanding scientific method and therefore making conversations that need robust scientific debate to underpin them are being easily understood by the public. But Craig's obviously made his public statement. There's a very big difference between his Facebook posts about that particular product and his support for our vaccine rollout. He's very supportive of the government's commitment to do that, as we all are. We're a great vaccinating nation. It's why we don't have polio anymore and smallpox, etc. So I, and I'm sure Craig and others, look forward to getting our vaccine when we do eventually get to our end of the queue and taking that up to protect our community and our families.
I think he's been pretty hard done by, because I think he circulated a lot of very reputable information. But I think he was very, very unwise to share a platform with Pete Evans, the former celebrity chef who's an anti-vaxxer. And just to put a smile on your face, I want to share with you tomorrow's cartoon in The Australian from Johannes Leek. Johannes has sent it through to me. He's got Pete Evans there in the background. My vaccine rules instead of my kitchen rules. And ScoMo was laid on the table. He said, "What's this one, Craig? Polio?" And Craig, of course, has got needles going in of ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, Botox. He's got wheatgrass lined up. And he says, yep, 100% paleo. Right, Pete? So he's giving the PM a bit of a paleo injection. And that's a bit of fun. It's all a bit of a sideshow at the moment, isn't it, with Craig?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to see Johannes's work. His dad, Bill Leek, great cartoonist. And just if I could just give a shout out to the Port Macquarie Political Cartoon Gallery. They've got their opening night with a Bill Leek exhibition tomorrow night in Coffs Harbour.
They have indeed. Thanks very much, Bridget. I appreciate it.
Authorised by Bridget McKenzie, National Party of Australia, Wodonga.